بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اتبع هداه إلى يوم الدين ثم أما بعد. Okay, welcome to the second class dealing with the rulings regarding beautification of or for the women. And before we get into anything, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to do some review. Starting with the book that we begin our class with, which is, the 200 questions dealing with issues of aqidah, issues of faith. So the first question that we asked yesterday, or that was presented to us from the book, it is, what's the first thing that's obligatory upon a servant of Allah? The first thing that's obligatory upon him.
To ask the question, why was he created?
Pretty much so, yes. That's correct. So asking why he's here, asking, what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want from him? That is the first thing, the first of his obligation. Okay, the second question. What is or for what reason was the servant of Allah created? To worship Allah. And the last question is, what does the word al-abd mean? Or servant? Anyone has?
It means servant, like submission.
Right, someone who's submission, humbled, right? Due to their fear and love of the Creator. Okay, so those were the three questions that we had last class. So the first one was, what's the first thing that's obligatory upon the servant? The first thing is that, knowing what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created them for. Knowing what Allah has created them for. And then the second question is, what is that thing that Allah has created him for? What is that matter that Allah has created him for? And the answer is that Allah has created him for the worship of him. And the last question is, what does the word abd mean? Like, we say Abdullah, and so forth. So what does the word abd mean? And it's a servant, someone who has tadallul, someone who has been humbled and has been and is in a state of being submissive to their Creator. Okay, so now we're gonna do 3 new questions. The first is, raise your hand if you think you know the answer. What does ibadah mean? First, I'm gonna try the question in Arabic, and then if you don't know the word ibadah, then I'll translate it in English. But I want to see who can just do it with just that word alone. The word ibadah. What does the word ibadah mean? Anyone? Worship, right? Okay. So what does worship mean? Yeah, actually that is considered an answer. Some scholars have described worship or gave the definition of worship with that context. The action of submitting to Allah. Okay. So that's worship then. You guys pretty much see. I think everybody's around pretty much have the same type of understanding, or does someone have something else? No? Okay, so let's see what the definition is for worship here. It says that worship is a comprehensive term covering Everything that Allah loves and is pleased with from actions and speech, whether it's apparent or internal. Also, in addition to this, is removing oneself from anything that negates that. Removing oneself from anything that negates that and its opposite. Removing oneself from anything which negates that and its opposite. I mean, the opposite of that. The opposite of all that Allah loves and is pleased with. Right? So staying away from things that Allah does not like and doesn't please Allah, from speech and action, whether it's internal or external, is an act of worship. How many of you guys have never considered that? So, for example, a brother or a sister decides that they don't want to go to a certain function, right? The reason why they don't want to go to that function is maybe the function is, hey, let's go all get our palms read. For example, we're gonna go get our palms read, have a good day of it, and things like that. You know, a sister, she says, well, you know what? I'm cool. That's not that. I'm not gonna do that. That's not me. You guys can do that if you want to, but I'm telling you the fear of Allah. But as far as me, I'm not going to. In her abstinence of doing that is an act of worship. You understand how that? So that's how that falls into line there. Okay. The second question: when does an action, or when is an action considered worship? When is an action considered worship? Okay, you say it goes back to your intentions. Anybody has anything else? Okay, when your actions please Allah. Okay, let's talk about your answer, right? Now we have to understand there's a difference between when something is considered worship and when that worship is accepted, right? Because when we talk about the acceptance of worship, then there has to be two conditions for an act of worship to be accepted by Allah. One of them is intentions, and the other is no, that it has to be in accordance to the Quran and Sunnah, in accordance to the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we can't make up an act of worship even with the best of intention, and it's going to be accepted by Allah, right? Can we do our own thing, guys? No, we can't. Okay, so I can't say, I'm going to worship Allah by driving in this car at 60 miles per hour going south. Allahu Akbar. Allah is going to love me for this because I'm doing it sincerely for Him alone. I don't want to go down south. It's too hot. So my only intention is to please Allah by doing this. Is that worship? No. It in itself is not worship. Now, a person with the right intention can make certain acts that are considered mubah, that are considered okay or allowed. With the proper intention, those acts can be made an act of worship, right? For example, a person eats. Is eat something that's allowed in Islam? Can you eat? Why is the hesitation here? You guys, that should have been a resounding yes. Right? So, of course, eating is something that is allowed. وَحِلُّ لَكُمُ الطَّيِّبَاتِ. Allah says, and I have made permissible for you all that is which is good. وَطَعَامُ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ. Yeah, and also the food from those who have been given the book from before you. Right? So we know that eating is permissible. But let's say I eat with the intention of making sure I have enough strength to stand for the night prayer. Now, because of my intention behind that, it is now an act of worship. Okay? So like that. Okay, so let's see what the answer is here. For what is considered, or what action is considered worship. So it says here, إِذَا كَمُلَ فِيهِ شَيْئًا. If that act has two things in it. وَهُمَا كَمَالُ الْحُبِّ مَعَ كَمَالُ الظُّلْمِ. Okay, being that you have all love, or the completeness and the perfection of love, and also the completeness of humility and humbleness. قال تعالى وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. Allah says, and those who believe, they have extreme love of Allah. And this is in Surah Baqarah. And also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, الَّذِينَ هُمْ مِنْ خَشْيَةِ رَبِّهِمْ مُشْفِقُونَ. الَّذِينَ هُمْ مِنْ خَشْيَةِ رَبِّهِمْ مُشْفِقُونَ. Those who, because of having a sense of awareness, have fear of their Lord. And this is Surah Mu'minun, verse 57, right? So here, one of the verse talks about the believers having love of Allah, and the other one talks about them having fear due to their comprehension, right, of Allah. Because we know that fear of Allah doesn't happen unless someone is conscious or have knowledge of Allah. Allah says, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهُ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاءِ. Those who truly fear Allah from amongst His servants are the people who have knowledge. So supposedly, what's supposed to happen is the more knowledge you have of Allah, your fear of Him increases. Just like how they say as well, the more knowledge you gain, the more you realize how stupid you are or how much you don't know. Right? So the person who speaks the most, who, likes to beat on their chest about how much they know about Allah and His Messenger, that's the person that you really got to, be wary of. Because a person, the more knowledge they get, the more it humbles them. Like, subhanAllah, I don't believe how much I don't know. That person is probably the one that doesn't talk as much. Allah knows best. Okay. The Shaykh, he goes on to say about worship. He says, وَجَمَعَ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى بَيْنَ ذَلِكَ فِي قَوْلِهِ إِنَّهُمْ كَانُوا يُسَارِعُونَ فِي الْخَيْرَاتِ يَدْعُونَنَا رَغَبًا وَرَهَبًا وَكَانُوا لَنَا خَاشِعِينَ. Allah says about the believers that they used to hasten, race against one another in doing good. And they used to call upon us with hope and fear. And they were khashi'een for us. They were fearful. Right? And this is in Surah Al-Anbiya, verse 90. Surah Al-Anbiya, verse 90. What does the word Anbiya mean? Huh? Prophets. Right. The prophets. So that means the Surah of the Prophets, verse 90. Okay, one more question. What are signs, or what is the sign that shows that a servant loves his Lord? His or her. His Lord. Or her Lord. Yeah. By his actions, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. That's not a question. How do you know that Allah loves His servant? That's the question, not the other way around. How do we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves His servant? Servants. Through tests and trials? That's true. I mean, there's a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said that if Allah loves a servant, He tests him. MashaAllah. So that is correct. Anything else? Okay, by His forgiveness of us. Okay.
Well, how would you know? Yeah, right.
Huh?
Well, how would you know that if He forgave you?
Okay, that's true as well. We don't know if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really forgives us. Right? That's something that we hope for. We hope for forgiveness.
But by His word.
By Allah's actions?
No,
Like what?
By His promise. I mean, He says that if you do X, Y, and Z, then
But what is that due because of His love for us? Okay. Interesting. Those are all good questions. Those are all good answers.
what was the answer? What was the answer to the book?
Oh, the book says none of that. The book says none of that. Yeah, those were good answers. Those were good answers. Okay, let's skip that. We're gonna go back to that inshallah. But the question here is, how does a servant know that what he's doing is something that Allah loves and is pleased with? Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're doing something outside of what is clearly outlined, then Allah knows best.
Anybody else has anything?
He keeps you on the path.
Okay, all right. No, I'm not. He loves and is pleased with. But how do we know that, for example, this, what I'm doing right now, I know that Allah loves it or is pleased with it? Yeah, that's right. That's right. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent messengers. Right? Those messengers has told us what Allah loves. And He has sent down books. And those books, they outline that which Allah loves and is pleased with. So it's not an issue, it's not guesswork.
But He said, how does a servant know that Allah is pleased with them? And the answer you said is that He sent down books.
No. What?
Come back to it.
You can say, okay, the question is what way does a servant know that the action he's doing, Allah loves it and is pleased with it? How does a servant knows that the action that he's doing, this is the action that Allah loves and is pleased with? And we said that, or let me read exactly what the Shaykh says. He says, "Arafuhu bi asalillahi ta'ala ar-rusul." That they will know, the servants, they will know this by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sending the messengers, when zaluhu al-kutub, and also revealing the books, amiran bima yuhibbuhu Allah wa yardahu. And these things, these messengers and these books, they will have inside of it commands from Allah of that which He loves and is pleased with. Nahiyan amma yakrahuhu wa ya'bahu. And in the same way that they will have that which, or they will have outlined that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dislike and is not pleased with.
Doesn't that come to the same thing that Fatima said?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. I didn't say she was wrong. I just wanted to read exactly what the Sheikh had said and stuff. Inshallah. وَبِذَلِكَ قَامَتْ عَلَيْهِمْ حُجَّتُهُ الدَّامِغَةِ. But what's interesting here is that by sending the messengers, letting you know what Allah likes, and letting you know what he's pleased with, and sending or revealing the books, letting you know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala likes and what he's pleased with, this also now establishes the proofs against us. So no one can now say that, well, I didn't know what Allah wanted me to do, so I didn't do that stuff right there. Can't say. I mean, Allah sent down messengers. And he also sent down books. Of course, that's relative when it comes to an individual. We're talking about, in general, a person. That won't be an excuse for a person.
That works for people who are cut off from society. Like, would they be held to the same standard?
You just said that was relative.
Oh.
Not now.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
because we know that there's always going to be an exception to the rule. We speak in generalities, but definitely like someone who the message has not reached them, then this is not their issue. This is not their scenario, and Allah knows best. But from what the scholars have said is that a person who the message has not reached them in their life, that they'll be tested, their faith will be tested in another way in the day of judgment. Okay. And this goes to for the person who received something that was supposed to be the message, but it's not. Like, a skewed interpretation of Islam or something like that, where it's not really the truth per se, and because of that, they turn away from that which was, well, some people might say that, like, for example, if Nation of Islam, for example, or someone who their introduction to Islam was ISIS or some other skewed interpretation of Islam, like those people, if their only way that they can, of course, like I said, it's all nisbi. It's all depends on the individual. And there's a lot of questions that can be answered in a scenario like that. Did they have the ability to find out the truth, but didn't decide not to? Were they prevented from finding out the truth? All these things has to be put in consideration. But alhamdulillah for us, that it's not something that we have to ponder and think about. All of that is left up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's the one that decides those issues, not us. But it is something that the scholars they do bring forth these different scenarios and things like that. Okay, so we're done with that book, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala.
So what's the answer? How does serving otherwise please with them?
Because I did stop in the middle, didn't I? I didn't read the whole answer. So we said that the servant knows because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends down the messengers and the book, the revelation, and those things tells us what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves and is pleased with. Right? And also these two things, the messengers being sent and the books that were revealed, they are also a strong proof that will be against him or established against him on the day of judgment. وَظَهَرَتْ حِكْمَتُهُ الْبَالِغَةِ. And also this shows the the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. قال الله تعالى رسلا مبشرين منذرين لأن لا يكون للناس على الله حجة من بعد الرسل. So Allah says that the messengers are bringers of glad tidings and they are warners, so that the people would not say or they would not have an excuse in front of Allah after the messengers have been sent. وقال تعالى قل إن كنتم تحبون الله فاتبعوني يحببكم الله ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم والله غفور رحيم. Also in the Quran, Allah tells the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to say, if you really love Allah, then follow me. Allah will love you and forgive you your sins. And Allah is Ghafur Rahim. Allah is Ghafur Rahim. He is oft forgiving and the most merciful. And that's the entirety of the answer. Okay. Any questions on that before we go into the book? No. Okay, so let's review what we covered so far in the book by Dr. Izdihar bint Mahmoud al-Makki. Uh, I'm sorry, Medini. Sorry, Medini. I'm a little out of it, I guess. All right, so Al-Izdihar, she said that she was going to put in her books some, I guess you could call it introductory issues, right? Starting off first with Maqasid al-Sharia, issues dealing with the intent of the legislation. And we covered that the legislation, when it comes to intent, is broken into three parts. That which is essential, that which is something that is needed, and that which is like basically good to have. Like in, I guess you could call it yeah, things that would make our life better. Okay, but it's not needed and it's not essential. Okay, when it comes to the essential things, Islam tries to preserve 5 things, right? The self, the mind, and what else? The self. Right? You said the nafs, right? The deen. Mm-hmm. Your wealth. And your heritage. And what do we mean by heritage? Your lineage, right? Meaning that, the breaking apart or the non-recognized, how do you say? Not the non-recognition of one's lineage, whether it is their children or their grandparents. This is not part of Islam, and this is the reason why marriage is something that is part of Islam and fornication is not. Because fornication does what? Yes, it breaks the lineage. It breaks the lineage. People don't know who's what is who, and all this other stuff. And these things can happen. Right? So marriage is something that has been legislated in Islam, while the opposite of it has been prohibited. Because that protects the heritage. And we talked about protecting the mind. And the example we gave was yeah, that was part of it. Qisas, right? Which is retribution. That means but actually that would be more for life. I think preserving one's life, that there's retribution as well. But mind is also, it falls into that. But there's another example that we did give. Alcohol, drugs, right? The impermissibility of alcohol and drugs. That's made impermissible to protect the mind of the individual. Okay.
You also mentioned reputation too under this.
I mentioned what?
Reputation.
Reputation.
Like your reputation.
Repetition.
Reputation.
What is? I don't understand this word.
Like your reputation.
Oh yes, reputation. Okay, yeah. I'm sorry. I'm thinking you're trying to say something. I'm like, what? Yeah, your reputation, someone's honor. Yes. Okay, that's what you're talking. I don't know what's going on with me today. Okay, so yes, reputation is also something that. So it's 6. Then, so reputation is also something that Islam has come to protect, and because of that, what has been made impermissible? backbiting and slander, right? Because that can ruin one's reputation. Okay. So now, the sheikh is the sheikha. She's gonna talk about something here, a principle that I think is very important, which says, قد تقرر الآن أن الشريعة إنما جاءت بجلب المصالح ودار المفاسد. Okay, so he said what we should understand and know right now is that Islam, the rulings in Islam, they're there to bring about as much good as possible while repelling as much negativity or bad as possible. Okay? That's something that we have to, and we discussed this a little bit last class. Anything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, whether it's halal, haram, all of these things are there to establish or to bring for us as much good as possible, as much benefit as possible, as while distancing us from as much what did I say again? A negativity, right? As much negativity as possible, as much things that are non-beneficial as possible, right? As much harm, making all that harm be away from us as possible. And also we discussed as well, when it comes to a benefit, that it's sequential, depending on the greatest benefit will have preference over the least benefit. So if you have two benefits, like for example, some doctors are now saying that alcohol, if you drink 2 cups a day or a week or something like that, it helps with the mind, being, I don't know, it does something. I can't remember. I read these things a long time ago, but it said there's some benefit in drinking a small amount of alcohol. Yeah, wine. What is it? Was it good for your heart or something like that? What? Huh? What does it do? Yeah. All right. So there's some benefit in it, and even Allah Subhanahu wa Taala in the Quran, He recognizes this. Says, "Yas'alunaka anil khamri wal maisir." Allah addresses the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Said they ask you about alcohol and gambling. قل فيهما إثم قليل ومنافع فيهما أسألك عن الخمر والميسر. Okay, فيهما إثم كبير ومنافع للناس وإثمهما أكبر من نفعهما. Hold on, لحظة. No, that doesn't sound right. There's something wrong with that ayah. فيهما إثم. Oh, I did say it right. Okay. What's your question?
I don't know if it's going to take this off topic, but like for instance, when a lot of the discovery about marijuana and all this other stuff, people are using it for medicinal purposes.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, what's the difference between someone using HTC or marijuana for pain versus someone popping Percocets or stuff that's prescribed by the doctor? Because as you can see, people are overdosing on.
Percocets.
Even if you're taking it correctly,
Mm-hmm.
Percocets will have you just the same way, probably. I'm saying people get drowsy by taking a Percocet. For instance, I can't take.
You're not intoxicated when you take it.
I think with that use, take out the element that makes you high, the benefit of relaxing your body, that's the high.
Okay, so these are good questions. Let me just repeat it so that the people who are watching can benefit. So, the question is, when it comes to drugs and the impermissibility of drugs in Islam, we know that there are medicinal drugs prescribed by doctors and things like that that have side effects that could even be more dangerous and take someone more out of what would be a correct mental state than the drugs that are considered illegal. And then when it comes to the illegal drugs, we have with marijuana, for example, that they're using that now as a pain reliever and something for people who have cataracts, and there's all of these benefits that they're now finding out that is in marijuana. So how can we say then that these drugs are impermissible and these drugs are not? First thing that we have to understand when it comes to impermissibility and permissibility is those rules that we just set down is greater good and the greater evil or the negative, right? These have to be looked into. Now we know that in the past, anything, or in general we can say, the scholars have said that anything which alters the mental state is made impermissible, like alcohol. Okay? So, if the reason for that impermissibility is the altering of mental state, if that can be removed from the equation, does that still count as being impermissible like alcohol? The answer would be no. Answer would be no. So, for example, with marijuana, if they can take out that part of it which makes it have those, have the effect that it does, then that wouldn't be an issue. But let's say that they're not able to, right? But then it still has those benefits that it has. Okay, then it would have to be looked at. What are the benefits? How necessary is the drug for medicinal purposes? What would happen to the individual if they don't have the drugs? Are there alternatives? And so for all of that has to be looked in. A doctor and a scholar who's well versed in that issue would have to look into those situations. I don't know if any one scholar or committee who have made a blanket general ruling concerning that yet. So Allah knows best as far as a general ruling in that.
I met this woman at the golf course. She works for in the county of giving out legal marijuana to people,
Mm-hmm.
and they have to jump through hoops in order to be accepted.
Yeah.
To have a doctor's approval, so you just can't go up there and get marijuana.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You have to fill out all kind of forms. The doctor has to say you need it for cancer, because a lot of people need when they plant cancer, they can't eat unless they have that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Some
Mm-hmm.
other stuff. But they just can't go there and get marijuana. There's all kind of paperwork they have to do. The doctor has to validate everything as being extreme that they need this.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is something that, of course, Islamically you would have to have, because, Islamically we have to go to the people who know about that thing in order for us to know whether or not that's necessary and stuff like that. So it's once we know that a doctor says that, this person needs it, and it will benefit them, then, the imam or the sheikh, he can then say, is it allowed or permissible and things like that. In coincide. Like, for example, the same thing when a person has to break their fast due to illness, right? It is a doctor who says that, if this person fasts, it could further injure them due to their illness, or it can kill them. It's not like a person says, well, I don't know, I'm feeling like I'm going to die if I do this and things. Now, in certain scenarios, yes, a person does know their situation and stuff like that. And in certain scenarios, someone can't always go to the doctor to get to get professional insight. But in general and things like that, the issue of whether or not a person can't fast due to illness, that goes back to the doctor, things like that. Okay, so yeah, that's definitely something that has to be looked into. But like I said, as far as the issue of marijuana is concerned, that has to be researched and has to be studied. And I don't know if any scholar who's given a general ruling when it comes to the permissibility of that. I think that has to be taken on an individual case, and Allah knows best.
You know, Allah's merciful. Even if you were starved, you can have pork.
Yeah. So definitely, like we said, individual basis scenarios that might apply to a person that might not apply to another. It has to be looked into. Okay. So that's those are some of the things that we covered, and that's what the Sheikha was talking about. She says here what she goes on to say then, وَالْمَصْلَحَةُ تُحَدِّدْ مِنْ حَيْثُ تَتَعَلَّقْ الْخِطَابِ بِهَا شَرْعًا بِكَوْنِهَا الْغَالِبَةِ عِنْدَ الْمُقَارَنَةِ بِالْمَفْسَدَةِ. So he says here that the greater good is further defined through its connection with that which is being addressed legislatively, and also due to it most of the time being compared to that which is its opposite, which is the harm, the greater harm. She then goes on to say, ولكن كيف تحدد هل يفعل هذا الأمر أو يترك بناء على قاعدة المصالح والمفاسد. So how do we know whether or not an action or something that we're doing or something that we're going to do or want to do, if we should leave it or do it based upon the principle of the greater good and the greater harm? So, لمعرفة هذا وضع العلماء ضوابط. To know this, the answer to this, the scholars have placed principles that they can use to find this out. وقواعد. فقالوا إن الأفعال ضربين or ضربان. So they say, the scholars say that when it comes to actions, they're of two types. Actions are of two types. الأول ما خفيت عنا مصالحه ومفاسده. The first type of action is one where it's not easy to discern what the greater good and the greater evil of it is. Okay, so something that we do, we don't know, or it's hard to discern what the greater good and the greater evil is in that action. فهذا لا نقدم عليه حتى تظهر مصلحته المجردة عن المفسدة أو الراجحة عليها. So in this act, in this issue, or in this action, where we're not able to determine easily what the greater good is in it, or the greater bad is, or harm is in it, then we can't do that action until we are able to discern whether or not doing that action has a good benefit and that outweighs the negative.
This is just in general, or is this specific to something?
Why do we talk in generality?
I don't know, but
You don't know?
no, I mean, when you were speaking about, when you had given the example about the alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
as far as Allah making it impermissible because, yeah, there may be some benefit, but the negatives outweigh the benefit.
Mm-hmm.
So, moving on in the lesson, what are you referring to? Is this this things that Allah has forbidden? Are these things that are permissible, but maybe we shouldn't do, or are these things that are in the gray area? Like, what are they referring to, as far as from what you're reading or in the lesson? What is this referring to?
Okay, so in this instance, we don't have a specific action that she's talking about. It's general, right? But we know that's not something that's forbidden, because then that will be clear, right? Because if it's forbidden, then we know that the harm outweighs the benefit.
Yes, where I was confused is because before you went further into the lesson, you used the example with the alcohol. Alcohol is forbidden, but it was still something that Allah said it may be beneficial, but
Yeah.
the benefits. So I didn't know we were talking about.
No. We're done with that. We're going back to the book.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Okay, we're going back to the book. That was an example that I used and stuff like that. Brought the ayat, يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْخَمْرِ وَالْمَيْسِرِ قُلْ فِيهِمَا إِثْمٌ كَبِيرٌ وَمَنَافِعُ لِلنَّاسِ وَإِثْمُهُمَا أَكْبَرُ مِنْ نَفْعِهِمَا. Say that there's a huge sin in them, right? And some benefit for the people, but the sin outweighs the benefit, right? That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about gambling and alcohol. Okay? That's another thing that we have to understand, that the things that are made permissible are made impermissible. That are made impermissible in Islam. That does not negate that there is no good in that thing whatsoever, right? Allah is not saying that, right? So, like for example, when it comes to not eating pork, all right. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not say in text that the reason why pork is impermissible is X, Y, and Z. He didn't say that, right? Except for he said that it's rijs. It is rijs, and rijs means like it's been translated as impure. The impurity of the pig is something that is debatable among some scholars. Is that impure hissi? Is it like physically impure? Or is it impure as it's ruled as an impurity? Okay? Because there's certain things that are considered something linguistically or something urfi, commonly known by the people, but Islamically, it's not considered that thing, right? For example, when we say something is dirty, in Islam, it's different than saying something is dirty amongst the people and things. Okay, so with that being said, I forgot where I was going with this. I think I might be sick, man. Maybe we have to, because I'm really like losing my train of thought here. I was going somewhere with this. I can't remember what I was trying to say. Anyone can jog my memory here? Huh? What?
As far as I don't know even.
Okay. Oh, we were talking about the generality of the khitab, of what's being mentioned here, what's being addressed. Now, when we talk about haram, then that's easy. What we're talking about now, we're talking about an issue that's presented with. We're doing it, right? An issue that we can do, or something that we can do. We're presented with this thing that we can do, and we don't know whether or not doing that thing is built upon the greater good, or that thing is built upon the greater harm. Like, does that me doing this thing, would it bring about good? And does the good outweigh the harm? Or does the harm outweigh the good? In a scenario like that, is that connected to is that fan connected to the switch that we turned? Yeah. So you can't have these lights on and that on at the same time without pulling that string, right, to turn off the fan.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, I just want the fan on.
Off. You want it off, right?
Yeah.
Just one more.
Eventually, it's getting slower now.
Yeah, we're getting into that time of the year where it is getting cold. Go ahead.
Fits within this framework.
Mm-hmm.
When I know of a person who's Muslim and they're a beautiful person, they're very decent, they love Islam and everything else, and then this person called them who had apostated,
Mm-hmm.
wanted to stay in their house because they were coming to the city.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we different because I said she couldn't come in my house.
Mm-hmm.
She let her in, and she stayed with her for a period of time. Then when she left, and I, like if she don't come in, I thought we talking about Islam, but she was talking about Jesus and everything else, and then she left.
Mm-hmm.
So this person has a good heart.
Mm-hmm.
So her intentions was to just let somebody in her house who she knew long time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
this person here had apostated.
Yeah, and to the opportunity to call her to Jesus and things like that.
Exactly.
Um.
She didn't do it right away. She just wanted to come in.
Yeah, but
and stay for
on a
free.
false pretense
Right,
that
but then
was.
when she left, it was still about this other kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I was telling her I wouldn't have let her in my house, but she said yes, she would because you're a nice person.
Okay, so first let me so the people that are listening can understand what we're talking about. So a scenario happened, or something happened. It's not a scenario. Something happened where a sister, a nice sister, and things like that, had an individual who had apostated. She knew her from before and things like that. Wanted to come to her house to stay, right? Like almost like she's visiting or something like that, or
No,
passing
she
through.
was in Cleveland, had nothing to do with her.
Uh-huh.
She came to stay for free in this person's house.
Okay, so she was in Cleveland to do something, and she ended up staying with this the sister, and the sister allowed it to happen. She allowed the sister to happen, right? Am I still not getting that right?
Yeah, let's just say a city.
Okay, yeah, city. Let's say a city. All right, so this individual came, stayed with the sister for free. Sister put her up as a guest in her home. Now, this person that was a guest in this sister's home had apostated. She used that as an opportunity to call the sister to her beliefs, which is, she I do believe she's Christian.
That comes later.
You're not
She,
originally.
no, she comes to her house
Mhm.
because she has to deal with some business
Yeah,
in
mhm.
the area, and so she just wanted a place to stay. For
Hmm. Yeah. Hmm.
So but she's like she was almost a minister.
Hmm.
She left Islam. She started preaching about, and then when she came to Cleveland, she wasn't trying to convert or anything.
Oh, okay.
She just wanted to stay someplace for free.
Okay.
So
Okay.
This person has such a good heart, and she's so that she
Mhm.
said okay. And so the girl's there, and then she leaves, and nothing happened.
Oh, nothing happened during the visit. Okay.
Right, and then she goes when she's still into the Jesus
Mhm, mhm,
right,
mhm.
and all that kind of stuff. So when she asked me, I asked her why she let her stay there. She said because she said you would let her because she's a good person,
Hmm.
but
Just apostate.
y-
But
yeah,
she's still a good person.
well, yeah, to her, and
Okay.
so
Mhm.
the person that let her stay is a good person.
Yeah.
She,
Okay.
She really is a real sweet person that
Mhm.
people. She's open house to people and everything else. And I
No.
also had a problem with that,
Mhm.
and I just let it go.
Okay. All right. So, all right. Now, that's good actually, and we could actually tie that into what we're talking about. Alhamdulillah. Now, the scenario is all right. This is the person that apostated, right? She came to a city where there's a sister, a nice sister, there, and she stayed with that sister, who's Muslim, and this person is not. The person was able to benefit from her, being hosted by the sister and things like that, having a place to stay for free and all that stuff. And then she left and went about her business. Okay, so the issue here is: should a person make or allow that individual to stay with them, knowing that they had apostated and things like that? A scenario like that, we need to look at the greater good and the greater evil. Now we know that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had kuffars stay in the masjid and things like that, and they that was taken as an opportunity to give them dawah, in which alhamdulillah, they accepted Islam afterwards. We have to look at how do you say, like connecting factors to this. Now, this person that apostated, she wasn't confused. You know, I mean, cause she tried to become a minister. She firmly believes in in what she's on now and things like that. So a person that's their scenario, that's their situation. Would it have benefited them Islamically for them to be in your home and things like that? No. So I mean, as far as I know, Allah knows best. You know, like I said, it's an individual base. Maybe she has a deeper connection with her, where she feels that by her being with her, that it might be a way of giving her dawah. And even though the person doesn't have to change then on the spot, but that might leave at least a positive impression of Islam on that person. But at least it would minimize the evil that they would otherwise have spreaded against Islam if she didn't do so. And we know that the Prophet ﷺ used to give some people money because of that, right? To lessen their evil upon the Islamic community as a whole. So, with that being said, is this scenario one in which an individual, it would be good for them to invite her in? I don't see it and stuff. I don't see that, And the sister being nice like that, I mean, alhamdulillah, may Allah reward her for being nice. But remember now, that goes back to our actions, was she doing that because she's just a nice person? Or was she doing that to be a nice person and doing something to please Allah? I mean, because if she was doing it to please Allah, then she will start to question, what's the Islamic benefit of me doing X, Y, and Z? Go ahead.
I mean, I know people that at one point was Muslim, but through their traumatic experience
Yep.
within a religion, they decided that not so much confused, but they were seeking other things. And like for me, like people I went to school with, like I don't really cut them off because I always, when we get around each other, I always talk to them about Islam. Like, what's up? What are you doing? And like you mentioned earlier, when Nadira asked who would be excused from, I guess who didn't practice Islam or whatever, does that mean that if they had the right understanding of Islam, is that still considered? Somebody could think they have taken Shahada, but their Aqidah or their belief system may not be correct. So is that the same as someone apostating?
Is a person who has incorrect issues of belief the same as a person who apostate? Is that what?
No, I'm saying like if someone took their Shahada, but their understanding
Of Islam.
We see people every day. Their understanding of Islam is incorrect. Is that the same as someone if they left the religion?
No.
Okay.
No, it's not the same. Having certain issues in Islam that a person might not understand correctly is different than a person who apostate. Because that person who has issues in Islam, they're still in Islam. So the basic framework of Islam they believe in, that thing that makes you Muslim, the Shahadatain, right? Believing in the oneness of a God and that He only deserves to be worshipped, and that Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu is His messenger. The performing the prayer and things like that. So let's say the person believes in the Arkanul Khams, right? They believe in the 5 pillars of Islam, but when it comes to issues of Aqidah, let's say they believe like Allah is everywhere, okay, or they believe that Allah doesn't have any names or attributes, right? Like something like that. Those issues, according to some scholars, and according to the level that it goes with that person, takes them out of the fold of Islam. But it's not clear cut like that. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to a person who they themselves took themselves out of Islam, right? Those people that have issues in belief and things like that, they might be excused for that. They might be excused for that in front of Allah.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like, are we to determine who has left? Like, or do we go around saying that person is apostate?
Because of their messed up belief? No. First of all, we can't do that because we're not scholars. The only people that can take someone out of the fold of Islam is a scholar. And then even when it comes to that, you have to look on the issues whether or not is the issue something that is unanimously agreed upon. Is it an issue where there are certain there's some ambiguity in it, so the person might be excused if it's not clear to them? Like for example, if somebody says, "I don't have to pray. I'm Muslim, alhamdulillah, I believe in the oneness of Allah and things like that, but I don't believe I have to pray." Meaning that they don't believe that it's praying is obligatory. Not that they don't pray. There's a difference between not praying and not believing that it's obligatory to pray. They're just like, that's something that's old. That's something that people used to do back then, but prayer is not really something that I have to do as a Muslim. That will take a person out of the fold of Islam if they believe that. Okay. Now remember, we're not saying that the person is lazy and is not praying because they want to play Xbox or something like that. But they know that Allah has made it incumbent upon them to pray. We're not talking about those people. All right, we're talking about an individual who say, "No, it is not obligatory for me to pray. I'm cool." Talking about those people.
I've heard that.
Oh yeah, I know. I'm pretty sure you have.
Yeah, I was in school and I was he was from Iran. This is years ago in the 80s. I was in grad school and he told me that his mother and sister didn't have to pray because they was Muslim.
See, so that's the issue. The problem is that even if you read just the Quran alone, the Quran doesn't even affirm that. It affirms the opposite. وَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَآتُوا الزَّكَاةَ وَارْكَعُوا مَعَ الرَّاكِعِينَ. Establish the salat and give the zakat and make ruku or bow down with those that bow down.
So when does not making salat, because you made a statement saying that.
See, now we're going there, huh? We're gonna go there. Okay.
If
All right.
you don't, like if a person believes they don't have to pray, then that's something different than someone just being lazy. But at what point do you not, when they say a person don't even pray anymore, and it's out of pure laziness that they don't pray?
Okay. The issue of being lazy and not praying, that is a differences of opinion amongst the scholars. Some say that the person who doesn't pray, because of this issue. First of all, the other one that we spoke about, the scholars all agree that person is disbeliever. So that person, they're done, right? The issue about laziness, not praying because of laziness, but still affirming that they have to pray, there's a difference of opinion amongst the scholars, right? Some scholars say that person is a disbeliever. Okay, we're going to get to that. Okay, some scholars say that person is a disbeliever. Some scholars say that the person is not a disbeliever, and that all they're doing is committing a major sin by not praying. Now the issue is that there is more proof to support, let's say there are more general proofs to support that the person who does it out of laziness is a disbeliever. The problem is, when do they become a disbeliever? That's the issue. And the fact that there is no detailed text that lets you know when they become a disbeliever helps the other side. Because the issue is that when something is important in Islam, this is a principle. When something is important in Islam, especially when it comes to issues of disbelief, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will clarify it so that it will be known. If there is a sense of ambiguity in an issue and stuff like that, that in itself might be a proof that shows that is not the right answer, or that is not, for example, the issue of wearing the niqab, right? Some scholars say that it is highly liked. Some scholars say that it is obligatory. There is no text that says that women wear niqab, right? There's no text like that. That's the reason why you have this difference of opinion, because there's no clear text. So a scholar could say that if it was obligatory, then there would be a clear text saying that they would have to do it, right? And that's one of the arguments that some of the scholars use. Hence, the lack of evidence is proof that it's not, or the lack of strong evidence. I mean, there is evidence, but the lack of strong evidence is proof that it is not obligatory. That's what some would argue, right? The same thing with this issue here is that, a scholar would say, okay, a lot of the companions, they had the view that a person who doesn't pray, even if it's out of laziness, is a disbeliever, right? This is like a lot of the, you could even say that it is consensus of the companions, that they believe that a person who doesn't pray, they're not Muslim. But when you go down to the detail of the matter, okay, is it when they miss one prayer, they're not Muslim? Two, do they have to go a week? When does the non-Muslim part start? And there's no text to substantiate that, okay, it starts then. That's why you have some scholars say that if they miss one prayer due to this, that they're a disbeliever. Some scholars say that if they miss 24 hours worth of prayer, they're a disbeliever. Where did they come up with this? Is there any text to substantiate that? No. This is all comes from ijtihad. It all comes from them, striving to look at the generality of text to arrive at something and things like that. That's what make it, the issue kind of difficult. I mean, you have the companions and the understanding of the companions, which is a very strong argument, but when you get into specifics, you can't really, it's more difficult to be able to pin something down that you can, use and start ruling as a ruling by it.
And what do you have to add into, let's say for the scholar that said they missed one prayer, wouldn't have to be other factors added, did you purposely miss that prayer? Did you accidentally forget that prayer? You know what I mean?
No.
They have to come in, so this is like if a person intentionally, I'm not praying.
No, yeah. It's a person who intentionally, I rather sleep and play video games.
Oh, okay.
It's not a person who, oops,
what about if a person
snap. Oh man, I miss it. That person. No, that's accidental, sahwa and things like that.
Depression.
I mean, that's a mental illness and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah, that person has an excuse.
Okay, what's the difference between a person who said they're disbeliever or a hypocrite? I know you can be a hypocrite and still be a believer. And so to me, it falls in that same category.
No, okay. They're just like, okay, all right. When we talk about, okay, the question is, what's the difference between someone being a disbeliever and being a hypocrite? Both the word disbeliever and the word hypocrite, there are two types. There is major disbelief and there's minor disbelief. There is major hypocrisy and there's minor hypocrisy. Major disbelief takes you out of the fold of Islam, just as major hypocrisy takes you out of the fold of Islam. Okay, so the type of hypocrisy that takes you out of the fold of Islam is when someone claims Islam while in their heart they don't believe in it. That's the hypocrisy that takes you out of the fold of Islam. But there are other issues of hypocrisy that doesn't take you out of the fold of Islam. And the Prophet ﷺ talked about them, like when he talked about, the signs of, or the characteristics of hypocrisy are, if they speak, they lie. When they argue, they blow up. When they promise, they break their promise. And these are signs of hypocrisy. A person who does this stuff falls into minor hypocrisy by doing these things. But the hypocrisy that takes the person out of the fold of Islam is the one where they say, I don't really believe in Islam, but when I see a Muslim, Salaam alaikum, brother, and all this other stuff, or sister, Allahu Akbar, and they'll even pray with you and everything like that. Like they did in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? The hypocrites did that. Right? But then when they're alone, and then they have no one to show off for, or there's no one for them to be scared off, because some people they only show Islam, like, especially like during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, because out of fear, right? The Muslims in the time in Medina, they were the majority, and they didn't want to be outcast. So a lot of them, they professed Islam and they, wore the guise of Islam, but they only did it because of that. They didn't do it because they wanted to please Allah, and follow the messenger. No, they didn't do it because of that reason. Okay, so does that clear that up?
The state of disbelief is one higher than a hypocrite?
There is. It's like what's they call it, a Venn diagram. So basically, if you're in a major state of hypocrisy, you're a hypocrite and a disbeliever, right? Because you're not Muslim. You're a disbeliever, but it's just that people don't know you're a disbeliever. We can't say that person is a disbeliever because outwardly they are displaying Islam. So for a hypocrite, the ruling of the hypocrisy and that it's disbelief is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? We don't have wahi. We don't have revelation. So we can't determine that. Okay? And now we're not talking about a person now where we know that they're not really Muslim because they actually said it to a couple people and then that got out and things like that. Because there are people who we really don't know anything from them but Islam. But in reality, that's the first thing from the truth. As far as a person who tried to be a hypocrite but failed miserably because people that they confide in, if they confided with anybody and stuff like that, spill the beans, or we saw them one time doing something that totally negated their Islam, what I'm saying, then that's a different story. But yeah, hypocrisy, major hypocrisy is disbelief. And disbelief itself, there are other categories of it. There are other things that can put a person in a state of disbelief. For example, shirk. Right? So a person who commits shirk is also a disbeliever. Even if they profess Islam. Well, I'm Muslim, but I just like giving Isa his due. I like giving Jesus his due. You know what I'm saying? So I do this and I do X, Y, and Z and things like that. But I'm Muslim, ahi. Salaam alaikum. No, I mean, they have negated their Islam by committing shirk. They negated their Islam by committing shirk. So that's another aspect of kufr, of disbelief, right? Being a mushrik. And then, of course, you have people that are disbelievers because they just disbelieve in Islam. And that's also a category as well. So yeah, there are different ways that one can be considered a disbeliever. Hypocrisy is one of them. Major hypocrisy. Go ahead.
We talk about all this disbelief and then we remember something. I can't remember. I cannot remember. We cannot pray for non-Muslims, or is that we can't pray for them when they die? I can't remember.
You can make dua for them when they're alive, yes, for guidance and things like that.
Are you going to make dua for guidance, or we can make any dua?
Dua in general.
But when they die, no.
No.
Okay. But I can, like, if somebody, how like I was like, oh, pray for me.
But why? What are you going to pray for them? I mean, you can't pray for them. You can't pray for a disbeliever. Something that will aid them in continuing in disbelief. Yeah, I mean, you can pray for Allah to make their affairs good. You know what I'm saying? And we know this because when they sneeze, what do we say? We say, Yahdikumullahu wa yuslihu balakum. May Allah guide you and correct your affairs or make your affairs better.
I don't say anything when a non-Muslim sneeze.
Well, you can.
I never.
The thing is, though, I mean, you can, though, but the issue is that, I understand, because, the issue is that, when I, at least for me, the reason why I sometimes don't, say something when a non-believer sneezes is because the sunnah is to say, may Allah guide you and make your affairs better. right? So I think that someone would hear them like, what you trying to turn me to Muslim, man? What's all that about? I just sneeze and stuff. Why don't you just say bless me or something like that? I don't want to get into that whole conflict and stuff like that. So I say that may your affairs be better, and then I say to myself, may Allah guide you too as well.
Yeah, no, I thought that.
What does Gesundheit mean, man? What does that mean?
I don't say nothing. And it's not always true.
It means bless you, huh?
They'll be like, oh, when I sneeze, bless me. And I'll be like, oh, thank you. But I never say anything.
I mean, when you say bless you, right? When you tell somebody bless you, what are you asking for?
I don't know. I don't say bless me to anybody, but they'll say it to me. So sometimes I feel bad because when they're sneezing, I don't say anything.
So a long time ago, I had a biology class where people, this topic came up in biology because they were saying, why do people say bless you when you sneeze? And there were a lot of people in the class who had this understanding, and I had never heard this before, that something is supposed to stop in your body when you sneeze, so they're saying bless you to...
No, I just read that it is a scientific fact that your heart actually stops when you're sneezing.
So that's why they say bless you.
If it's blessed because you came back.
I mean, that's a sign. I think that's something that's sign. As far as your heart stopping when you sneeze, if that is something that's substantiated by science, it's something that is substantiated by science recently. I don't think that scientists knew from way back when people were saying "bless you" that was the reason why.
But in Islam, is that true or no?
No. There's nothing to support that. That is the reason why we do it in Islam. Nothing to support that.
Well, back to my question, just to be clear, we can't make dua for non-Muslims.
Yeah.
I thought that you could not. I thought that you could only make. I thought that you could only make dua like if you ask Allah to guide them. That was the only dua that you could make. And I knew that you. I mean, I didn't mean to ask. I knew that you definitely could pray for them when they died. But as far as them living here on earth, you can make dua for them other than asking Allah to guide them.
You could ask for dua for guidance and for anything that does not go against Islam. Also, make them continue upon disbelief. Okay, because like I said,
so somebody asks you they're sick or their family member. Like I've seen this coming. Pray for my aunt or my family member. You can make dua that Allah heals their family member.
He said only if they did.
No. I mean that asking for a healing of family members, stuff like that. That's a little bit. That's a gray area in there. I wouldn't do that. No. Stick to anything on the lines of that which we know that the Prophet ﷺ said that you could say for a disbeliever, which is guidance and bettering of their affairs. Now, the bettering of their affairs is general. Just say, may your affairs be better and stuff like that, or may your situation be better, and that's it.
People call me and say, such and such, could you pray for them?
Yeah, say yes, sure, I'll pray for them. Pray for their guidance.
No, that's not what I was saying. I know that you can pray for their guidance. May Allah guide them to Islam. This is something that I make for non-Muslims all the time. What I'm saying is so-and-so, Aunt May is in the hospital. Yes. So you're saying no. Praying for specifically for may you get better and things like that. Is that considered from making their affairs better? Yeah. Things like that. It is, but I would say use that which the Prophet ﷺ used. Don't say may you get better. Say may your affairs be better. Because that's what we know. Keep it within that restraint and stuff like that, and don't go out of that.
So sophisticated. I hope you did that.
Yeah.
Make it keep it simple, and then they don't look at you twice.
Yeah. I hope that God will make everything well.
I have a question. I mean, because it's definitely obvious that you wouldn't be wishing them to turn up at the club and have the best birthday ever. I mean, because I thought that, even Allah answers the du'as of the non-believer, the disbeliever, even while they're on this earth, like their mercy stops at death. So that to me lets me know, like, if someone is sick or if it's poverty, you know what I'm saying? Like, how come you can't
Now here's the thing, though, guys. When we make dua and supplication in Islam, how do we do that? When we make dua for ourselves and for other people as Muslims, how do we do that? Yeah, we do it silently, but in what reference do we have for du'as in amongst ourselves?
Or how is it done?
Yeah.
I always like supplement first, like dhikr, then
So you just go off the top of your head and stuff like that.
right. Like if it's not in salat.
So no one here uses the supplications of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? When they're making dua for...
Like if you learn them and then like in salat, but if it's my own sunnahs, I'm gonna say my own.
Yeah, I mean, that's different. That's different.
It's like, okay, it's like, for me it's different. Like if I'm sitting down specifically to make dua, then I will use the supplications from the sunnah, right? Or from Quran. Like if I'm sitting down, like almost like you're making salat, but you're specifically making dua. This is your time to make dua. But if it's just in general, you make dua all the time. All of this, all of that, all of that. You know what I'm saying?
God, okay, all right. Let me say this then. I think they have their own little thing going on here when it comes to supplication. So let me just say that when it comes to supplication for the Muslim, the best supplication is the supplication that the Prophet ﷺ taught us, his nation. Right? They're all inclusive, and they make sure that you get the good that you're supposed to get, and it repels the bad. The problem sometimes. When we try to make up our own thing and do our own thing and stuff like that, that we might be asking for something when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to give us something better than that thing that we asked for. Or the opposite, that right? We might be asking for something that is bad for us. And that's why the encouragement of the scholars is to learn the dua that Prophet ﷺ taught the companions so that we can use it in those scenarios that suits our situation is very valuable and something that we should do. And that's what I thought. I'm thinking that's what people do, and that's what I'm asking. So I'm saying, what I'm trying to say is, what I was trying to say is that if we make dua for one another using the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, then why we want to make dua for someone that's not Muslim using other than the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ? You understand what I'm saying? That's why I say keep it within that framework. We use the du'as that the Prophet ﷺ, from his guidance, said that this dua is for this dua is for that, in those scenarios. And the dua the Prophet ﷺ used to say to the disbelievers, we use those du'as for the disbelievers. That way we don't have to worry about, can't we? You understand what I'm saying? We work within that framework. Alhamdulillah, we are saved. We're saved. Because when we get into try to make dua on specifics, can we say this? Can we not say this? Then we get into like gray area and things like that, But when we stick to the Prophet ﷺ and the Sunnah, that's the Safina to Noor. That's the ship of Noah.
I don't want to say that's unrealistic. I don't think that's unrealistic. That's terrible. But
yes, please.
No, what I'm saying is it's not. Maybe it's something specific pertaining to your situation. Like me and my son in the car every day going to school. Oh Allah, please help Yasin. Let's have a good day at school, have good behavior. We go through this whole list of things. So that may not necessarily be listed, in as far as it's not listed as far as the Prophet would do us or something. So when we're talking about like things that are personal or specific, it's not always gonna be what it's not.
So all right. Let's take your example for instance. Oh yeah, oh Allah, make Yasin do good in school. Right. Make Yasin obey his teachers and things like that. Okay. Instead of saying like another dua like Allah, give me the good that is from this child and save me from the bad that's from this child. As an example. Okay. Who said that him doing good in school is actually the best thing for him? No, I'm serious. No. Let's be for real. Now, most people can say in general school is good and things like that. But if you're when they're on younger, of course, everybody says they got to go to school, they got to learn, to read, write, and things like that. But there's going to be a time that's going to come where that might not be applicable. It is. No, there is. There is a time. School is not for everyone.
All I know is that let's just say not even school. When I'm in the car, I make the traveling dua in the car, right? The traveling dua, and then I add on a whole bunch of other stuff. Like, and I feel like dua should be specific. Like, I feel like you ask Allah specifically for what you want, be specific. So I make the traveling dua as general, and then I'm like, please don't let me get any accident, don't let me get put over by police.
So I mean, okay. So my question to you.
Every time I get in the car, I go into a whole bunch of details after the.
My question to you: the dua for travel, the dua for when you get in your car, doesn't cover all of that. Bismillah tawakkaltu ala Allah, la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. That covers all of that.
I think what she's saying is that you can say to do it, but she want to personalize that specific.
And there's nothing wrong with personalization, but
That's what it sounds like you're saying.
But you have to understand that in the generality of the dua and stuff like that is a lot of good that you might be missing out when you get personal with it. Now, making personal dua and stuff like that is something that is not saying that it's haram or impermissible, but it's something better than it, which is the sunnah of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
Prayers, like some people just memorizing prayer
And they're not cognizant of what they're saying and things like. Yeah, that's true. And that's something that I've noticed too. When I was a chaplain, I actually had to learn how to make off the top of the head dua, because that was something that I'm not used to. Every dua that I know and stuff like that is dua from the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. I'm not used to spontaneous dua, and I know that is something that the Christians, they excel at. That's all they do.
They memorize too.
Yeah.
They do memorize.
Yeah, because when my family, we have our little meetings and they start sending little prayer.
Yeah, they do have it. They do have it. They do have it.
Universal prayer, count me out. So they try to make you, and they can't help themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They've already memorized the words, and that's it.
I have a question. But to me, is that like a disadvantage for people? Like, for instance, like our language is not Arabic.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying you can't learn.
Mm-hmm.
Like even from that book, like after Fajr, I've learned a lot of the du'as that you say.
Mm-hmm.
And even after Asr, I've learned a lot of them. However, if a person is getting up for tahajjud and something is afflicting them, or everybody does not know, like for instance, like I know in the Fard Salat, you have to say the du'as in Arabic,
Mm-hmm.
but people say like in for your sunnahs or the ones that's not obligatory, you can say your personalized prayer.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out what's the difference. Like, you're not gonna always say those. I thought it was specific times when you say those. Like for instance, you start your day with Fajr, then you say those morning prayers.
Mm-hmm.
After you say those afternoon, evening prayers. But in the meantime, you're gonna personalize your prayers.
Here's the thing. When it comes to personalizing prayer that I fear, and there is an aspect that is fair, that there is some hadar in it, is that some of the people, they can go into extremes when they come to their supplication, things like that. Asking Allah something that's inappropriate. For example, oh Allah, let me be able to get my money up so I can do X, Y, and Z, and that which they want to do is impermissible and things like that. I'm just saying. What I'm trying to say here, guys, that there's nothing better than the idea of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, which is Kamil Shamil. It is complete and it is comprehensive. But at the same time, I understand there is some negative aspects to that, meaning when it comes to personalizing something, you feel more connected and cognizant of what you're saying. I understand that, but don't run away from the sunnah and stuff like that. Do your thing. If that's the way you want it, but also be wary that you might fall into some some iffy areas if you do continue to do that as well. It is safer by far to stick with that which the Prophet ﷺ, said.
No, I completely agree. I mean, I understand that as far as the best supplications are the supplications from the Quran and the Sunnah. I just didn't.
There's benefits in personalizing your dua.
Personalization was just what was bothering me. It was like,
When they talk about marriage, they should be specific.
particularly
on
what you want to
want.
ask as far as your spouse or your husband, you know.
That's different. That's different.
That's still a personalized dua.
No. Because I mean, when it comes to, for example, when it comes to choosing someone for marriage, right? You pray istikhara. Istikhara is a dua, and then in the dua, you get specific about the individual, right? Or the two individuals, or so forth and stuff like that. But you started off with the dua, and then you ended with something that the Prophet ﷺ had said that you should end with, which is stating the specifics in that scenario and stuff like that. In istikhara.
Or dua in general.
Istikhara.
Oh, okay.
I mean, isn't that what you're supposed to do when it comes to choosing or making an option? You pray istikhara. If that's not what you're doing, what are you doing?
No, we're doing that, but we didn't know that that was only in Instacart and not within your.
You can make Instacart for any decision that you have.
Yeah, any decision that you have, you make istikhara for. You pray istikhara, you say the dua, and then you put that at the end of the dua. Asking Allah to give you the good of it, or asking Allah to give you it if it's good for you in your deen and your life, worldly affairs, and asking Him to repel it from you if it's not good in your deen and your life and your worldly affairs, and then replacing it with that which is better than it. You seem like you got a lot more to say. I can see it. You're not content, and that's good. That's cool. You don't have to be content, man. Do your thing, man. Do your thing. No problem, inshallah. So, with that being said, we've ran out of time here, which is okay. You know, I'm comfortable with that. You know, that we didn't cover a lot of the book. We're not trying to rush through it, even though we do want to get to the meat and potatoes of the book. You know, get into some of these issues that, you know, you guys might be wanting to know what the scholars have to say about it, things like that. But we're gonna slow roll in certain points of this book, inshallah, without it being too extensive. Any questions before we close out?
Did you ever figure out what the meaning of Jamala means in that ayat 6?
No, you guys were supposed to.
Yeah, I mean,
Was that homework for me or for you?
it was homework for you. For us.
Yeah, I wanted to know. But what I thought it meant that Allah has blessed us with different luxuries. You know, like we talked about the animals. But the beauty in that blessing is that we get to use it like for food, for clothing, for just in your everyday life. The different blessings and mercies that Allah has given us. But the beauty is when we use it. I'm assuming that's like, you know.
So beauty here basically doesn't mean beauty. Then it's something. It represents something else, like the benefit that we get from something like that. That could be a possibility.
This from the first class.
Yeah, it's from the first class.
Surah Nahla, ayat 6. And it talks about, I don't have my phone.
So I can watch it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, inshallah, it should be on there. Hopefully, I don't know if the whole class was recorded. Was the whole?
Cut off now?
I have no idea what is it doing. I mean, I put it on Facebook. What is?
Surah Nahla and ayat 6 and read that.
There's some people watching.
5 and 6.
I mean, it seems like it's still on, from what it looks like, inshallah ta'ala. So, you know, whatever. So we're gonna close out. Are there any other questions?
You said the one about the cattle, he created the cattle
Right.
for you, you have them warm clothing and the advantages. And then there's beauty in them for you when you drive them back to home and when you send them forth to pasture.
Beauty in them for you. So it's something about, I'm guessing some people just like the way animals look, maybe.
Or it could be because we use animals for for everything. Like we use them for their fur, for their
They keep
clothes.
it in the
We
act
use-
of
right,
the act of everything.
right. So we use them to help us work. We use
Mhm.
them for eating. We use them for clothes. So that's why I was saying like Allah has blessed us with them.
Mhm.
But the beauty in it is that we get to like multi-use.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Anybody else research? I mean, who else was here last class?
Um,
Just you two.
no, it's Jenna and I think Amina.
You mean that's here today?
Yeah, that's here today.
You and me.
Just you two. Okay. All right, khair, inshallah.
Now, the book that you have is all in Arabic, and that's it.
Yeah, that's it. It's not a very famous book. That's the reason why I don't think anyone's even attempted to translate it. And it's almost 500 pages, too. Not saying that that's long. I mean that's pretty average size for a book, and it's a dissertation or it's a thesis that she wrote for her doctorates in Islamic. And she, we read a little bit of the introduction where she talks about the reason why she chose that as her subject, because of the new things that women do as far as beautification that might not, that a lot of them don't know whether or not it's permissible or impermissible. So she's going to address those issues, as well as, of course, laying down some groundwork as far as what makes something impermissible, what makes it permissible, and things like that. Just so that we can have an idea, so that when we do start talking about something as halal and haram, we have a foundation that we can understand. Like, oh, okay, I see why she said that, or why the scholar said that. Because what's going to happen is she's going to give you the opinions of the scholars, and then she'll tell you what she believes to be the correct opinion and stuff. Okay.
What is her background?
She studied and graduated from the university in Mecca, Qura. She's has her doctorate and she teaches there. I do believe is what I saw in her biography. So she's a teacher, professor there in Islamic. As far as which science she teaches specifically at that school, I don't know.
What do you say when non-Muslims tell you happy holidays or Merry Christmas?
I say okay.
Cause I would be like, I don't know, I was like, thank you.
I mean, when they say Merry Christmas and stuff like that, I just say okay. I mean, why go into the long drawn out thing? I mean,
That's
they're
what I want to do. So I just be like, okay.
yeah, just okay, and they'll get a lot of them will get the message like, oh, I forgot that not everybody's Christian or not everybody celebrates this and that.
On and a whole everything on, and they still saying Merry Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, people are stuck on what they're stuck on when it comes to Merry Christmas and things like
Oh
that.
yeah, that's true.
It's like a
cultural.
season.
It's
They
a
feel like
It's a
it's
cultural thing.
Yeah, it's been to a lot of people, Christmas has moved from being a religious thing to a seasonal thing, and whatever they move it, things can morph and change all at once and stuff like that. But we have to remember where that stuff comes from, and we got our own greetings, we got our own celebrations. We don't have to be a part of that, but at the same time, a lot of those people, they don't have an evil intent. They're not trying to be miscellaneous or mischievous with what they're saying. So, just, okay. And to you, I mean, with the Merry Christmas thing, I wouldn't say, and to you. I'll just be like, okay. But like, Happy Holidays, I'm like, yeah, okay, to you. I mean,
Smiling and going about your business.
yeah.
I was like, oh, thank you.
right.
Sometimes it's intent. When I, in 2005, Mm-hmm. So I'm at the airport. They gave me a whole body search before I left.
Of course, welcome you.
And they holding me up, and so she's upset. So she said to me, as we getting ready to go, and Adam did a whole body search and no Muslim. She said, well, Merry Christmas, Carol.
Icing on the cake. She made you. She wanted you to know how much she hated you.
Said, whatever, and because I'm trying to get on the plane. I said whatever and kept walking.
But nowadays you have so many Muslims that is celebrating Christmas, Halloween. You have so many, so people are confused. They don't know what you celebrate.
I had to explain to one sister that what Christmas is really about. She's Muslim. I said,
people have arguments every single year. You have Muslims that have trees in their house. They'll post it on social media.
Yeah. Foreigners, mainly foreigners. They don't understand American stuff.
But that's the thing, though. I mean, if the foreigners are from like places where they're Christians, they know what Christmas is about. Because like Egypt, Egyptian Christians celebrate Christmas. But of course, when it comes to stuff, Allah Musta'an.
You know it's not Eid. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, it's not Eid. Like, come on now, let's stop making excuses.
A lot of Muslims want to conform.
It's like Halloween. It's like, so. And even if you was going to participate in it, you would want to know something about it. So you know something about it.
That's not. I mean, that would be ideal. That every Muslim will try to seek out the truth in every issue and stuff like that. But people just go along with the flow. A lot of people just go along with the flow.
Make an excuse for it. That's my thing. If you're gonna do it, it's funny. Some people say that when the kids feel left out, do what you're gonna do, but don't try to justify it. It's 2019. Y'all know what Christmas is about. I mean, something.
Okay, we could take this conversation out of the class. Meaning, I'm gonna close the class out, and we can continue with a conversation, inshallah. So, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik wa ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant wa astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Okay, go ahead now. What you guys saying?
Like